My name is Peter McKenzie. I'm the owner of Rincon Property Management, and we're coming to you today to discuss the latest COVID-19 relief legislation that was just signed into law by President Trump. So they originally passed the CARES Act back in March. Here we are in December of 2020, this new relief bill that is literally over 5,000 pages long. We're going to dive into the parts that affect rental property owners and tenants who are having trouble related to COVID. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the eviction moratorium and a $25 billion fund that's going to be designed to help renters who are having trouble paying the rent. This money is going towards alleviating the financial hardship caused by COVID-19. Briefly, it can be used for back rent that's not paid, future rent potentially that's going to be affected by the hardship, utility bills that haven't been paid, so there's a little more leeway on how these funds can be spent. So we're going to review a few of the most frequently asked questions related to this new program, and then we're also going to give you some of our firsthand experience in dealing with these COVID-related issues, in dealing with our clients and our tenants, and kind of some tips on how you could have some success as you navigate this new law. It's designed to cover three things. One is unpaid back rent up to 9 months, which basically takes you back to the start of the pandemic, up to 3 months of rent that hasn't been charged yet, so 3 months into the future, and then unpaid utilities. How exactly they're going to administer that remains to be seen. What's going to qualify for future rent versus unpaid back rent. Those are questions that we don't have an answer to yet. But you could have the ability to get 12 full months of rent paid, which is a huge benefit for both the landlord who hasn't received the rent and for the tenant who, at the end of all this, is going to be stuck owing a large bill, especially in our area, of unpaid rent. So this could be a real relief for all parties. So they have come out with some parameters, and what they're saying is, or what the bill says, is if the renter earns less than 80% of the median income, and I just want to make sure I read it so I get it exactly right, and they've demonstrated a risk of housing instability or homelessness, and have one or more household member who is unemployed as a direct result of COVID-19 will qualify. They also put a few caveats in there that they'd like to see priority given to someone who makes 50% of the median income and has some of those same things, or someone who's been on unemployment, but they're not mandating that. So really they're going to allow the states and the local governments to administer this. This bill just provides the money. Well, since the bill is so new, we don't know how the states or local governments are going to administer it. That remains to be seen. So they are clear on this, on what that is, and I'll just go point by point. There's 4 of them. So one is a reduction in work hours due to the pandemic causing financial difficulties, which is a lot of people. Temporary business shutdowns as a result of the pandemic. Layoffs or terminations due to COVID-19, or an increase in out-of-pocket medical expenses. So technically, if you meet one of those things, you should qualify. It's a good idea to. We're going to recommend that you do, but if for some reason you didn't want to participate in this program, then the agency that administers it would just give the money to the tenant, and then hopefully the tenant pays the landlord. Well, if you participate, the money will go directly to the landlord from the government, which is just more security that the landlord's going to get the funds directly instead of, having them used somewhere else. Our recommendation is that you do participate so the process is as seamless and smooth as possible. In our experience dealing with these financial hardships with our tenants, and also some of our clients had their own financial hardships because this is affecting everybody, it always worked out better when all parties communicated well, were on the same page, and kind of had the same goal, which the goal with this rental relief fund is to get the rent paid, which is in the best interest of all parties. So ideally, everybody participates and everybody is made whole. So this is a provision that we haven't seen before, which frankly is a really good thing for the landlord and the tenant. But how do you do that? Well, first off, it's very clear that it has to be with the tenant's consent. So more than likely the tenant's going to have to sign. You're going to be working closely with your tenant as far as getting this approved. How they're actually going to disperse the funds and where you're going to physically file that application, nobody knows yet, because literally the bill is only a few days old. So I'm 100% confident the states haven't figured that out yet, just based on our experience with the past CARES Act and Assembly Bill 3088. There's a lot of things that they put in these laws that don't actually make it down to like the boots on the ground on how they're going to be administered. So more than likely that's coming, and we will keep you updated when we find that information. But for now, it's a little bit of an unknown. The bill just says that they're going to leave it up to the states and the local governments to administer. We do know this, that when you negotiate with your tenants in good faith and everybody's working towards the same goal, which is to get through this pandemic, get the bills paid and keep everybody in their housing, which is a big deal as far as the pandemic is concerned. It's much better when the landlord and the tenant work together. And in our experience with negotiating with tenants and our landlord clients, back when we initially had the lockdown in March, April, the parties that both had each other's interest in mind are the ones that ultimately came out okay. You don't want this to turn into an adversarial thing, because these are hard times for the landlord, the tenant, the vendors that work on the properties. Everyone related to this is really on their back foot through no fault of their own. So our experience was to come at this from a good place and negotiate in good faith with both parties. And we're here to help our clients with that. So that's a part of the service that we provide. We will try to bring all the parties together and hopefully have a positive outcome. I want to talk a little bit about the eviction moratorium, specifically what properties does the moratorium cover? Because there's a lot of confusion out there. What we're talking about today is a federal law. There's state of California laws, there's city of Ventura, city of Oxnard. Every city basically where we manage property has their own version of the moratorium. The state came out with Assembly Bill 3088, which is going to replace a lot of those local ones, but that's taking a little bit of time. So just specifically to this federal law, what properties are covered? All residential rental properties. So if you have a tenant who's living in a house, not necessarily a commercial tenant, then your property is subject to this law. So that's important to keep in mind. So there is additional help for homeowners in the CARES Act, but as far as this rental relief fund, this is not who it's geared toward. But if you're a landlord, obviously this is a benefit to you because you get to collect rent and then pay your mortgage. There are other laws and things that are in the works that are geared more towards keeping the homeowners in the house and not foreclosing because of their financial hardship. But that's not really what this particular rental relief fund is for. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. Please check back as we get new developments. So the bill is literally just a few days old. We don't know how logistically the rental $25 billion fund is going to play out. As soon as we do find out that information, we will be sharing it with everyone. So please don't hesitate to check back for the latest developments.